Turning now to this, 2 Israeli embassy employees were shot dead Wednesday night, with a suspect now charged with murder. Middle East analyst and senior fellow at the Philip Merrill Center for Strategic Studies at Johns Hopkins University, Laura Blumenfeld, joins me now. Laura, thank you so much for joining us in this horrific news event. And the investigation into this is, of course, in its early stages, but what we believe to know is this suspect was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and then went on to murder 2 innocent people and shout "Free Palestine." So is this an example of something that is deeply wrong with this country?
Absolutely. He was like the little terrorist that could. I think I can, I think I can. He just repeated slogans to himself often enough to make it true. When I heard the terrorist scream on Wednesday night, "Free Palestine," the slogan was ringing in my ears because I'd heard it Wednesday morning outside Columbia at my own kid's college graduation, where not only students were booing the president, but when I turned around, there was a mom telling the president of Columbia University, get off the stage, because she had arrested protesters the week before. Look, I think this proves that free speech might be a right, but it's also a responsibility. And the shooting shows the connection between rhetoric and bloodshed is real. After the cold-blooded murder on Wednesday, the consequences of this kind of violent rhetoric can't be denied.
Yeah, and the victims should have been celebrating the most exciting times in their lives. Yaron Lachinsky was a Christian, and Sarah Milgram was a U.S. citizen, and both of them were working to bring peace to the Middle East, including Gaza. And if only the suspect had known that.
Absolutely. They weren't, the Yaron was not Jewish. He was perceived as Jewish. She was a third-generation Kansas from the town of Prairie Village, where my mother and my grandparents are from. These are folks who are, raised on corn-fed optimism, and in their world, stories can have happy endings. And so our only hope is that this drives home a message that terrorism isn't only about killing, it's a terrorism mindset, which in one word is dehumanization. How can we make people more human in each other's eyes? That's what Yaron and Sarah lived for. That was their belief. Who is helping the people of Gaza more? Those who are inside the museum. They were working on an interfaith joint effort for humanitarian relief across the region, or the gunmen outside, deranged by violent rhetoric and a wrong approach to society that led to senseless death. He fired 21 bullets. Take one moment to think about that, to kill 2 people. Sarah was alive and trying to crawl away. He followed her and shot her. She sat up, she tried to live, and he shot her again.
Oh my gosh. So we're going to keep them and their families in our thoughts and prayers as the horrific details of what took place at the scene continue to unfold as we learn more. And when it comes to the war itself, Laura, French President Emmanuel Macron, he's pressing for an immediate recognition of a Palestinian state. The UK and Canada have been very critical of Israel's expansion of this war. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this yesterday: "I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers, and kidnappers thank you, you're on the wrong side of justice, you're on the wrong side of humanity, and you're on the wrong side of history." A scathing and pointed criticism from Prime Minister Netanyahu at a time when Israel is being really pressed to withdraw here.
Well, for Netanyahu, this is a war of survival, and his feeling is, I'd rather be alive and hated than loved and dead. And that was a lesson that, whether you're saying you draw it from the Holocaust or whether you draw it from the Middle East today, there is little pity for victims in the Middle East. And his feeling is that the strong survive.
And when it comes to Iran itself, nuclear talks are set to resume today between the United States and Iran, and it's at a time when the United States has made it clear zero enrichment is the U.S. stance. And there are also reports that Israel is preparing for possible strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran has, of course, responded to that already. Where do you see these talks going when they resume in Rome?
Well, I think that the red line has been drawn, and if the United States sticks to that red line, which is no enrichment, and there's no daylight between Israel and the United States, there's an opportunity here either to get a deal that everyone can live with and feel good with. It won't be a kind of Obama comb-over, the JCPOA from 2015, but it will be a deal that's solid and can lay the groundwork for a peaceful Middle East. It all begins and ends with Iran. And if they don't, if diplomacy doesn't work, then there is that second way. Israel feels like it has a historic opportunity now to deliver that showdown blow in a fight that began on October 7th. Israel was behind on that day, and I think that they feel like they need to claw their way back to a place of supremacy because, again, in the Middle East, there's no words that speak louder than the fist.
Yeah. And President Trump has said that he has extended the olive branch, but it won't last forever. Laura Blumenfeld, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.